Everyone has a past. Some people bury it. Others dig it up. Part 1. She still has the key. Setup. Garrett Cole, haunted investigator and former demon hunter, has tried to live a quieter life. After years of chasing monsters across the country, he's finally settled down in a modest brownstone in upstate New York. No more rituals. No more nightmares. Just peace. That ends when he gets a text from a number that should be dead. Still thinking about you. Miss our nights. Still have your Kiki. L. Lena. His ex. The one who disappeared 3 years ago. The one whose body was found with her throat cut and no eyes. Something's wrong with the brownstone. At first, it's little things. A familiar perfume on his pillow. The sound of the coffee pot brewing at 3:17 a.m., the exact time Lena used to wake up. Songs they listened to on road trips playing from his record player, even though it's unplugged. Then come the postcards. Handwritten. No return address. Are you seeing someone new? Don't forget the cabin. I forgive you. Garrett burns them. They come back. The attic door. Garrett hears footsteps above him one night. The brownstone doesn't have an attic. He checks the blueprints. Nothing listed above the top floor. But in the hallway, behind the coat rack, a new door has appeared. Plain wood. Brass knob. Scratched into it. Still mine. He opens it. Finds a spiral staircase that leads into a room that shouldn't exist. And on the far wall, Polaroids of him. Sleeping. Eating. Crying. From the last 3 years. He hasn't cried since the funeral. The basement and the blood. Garrett tries to move out. Puts the house up for sale. No one comes to view it. Real estate agents say the listing won't update. A neighbor confesses no one sees the house at all anymore. Says it's been boarded up since the accident. What accident? Garrett asks. The neighbor blinks. The one with your girlfriend. The screaming. The fire. There was no fire. He goes to the basement. Finds black mold shaped like letters. L-E-N-A. He tears down the drywall. Behind it, a shrine. Candles. Locks of hair. Old photos. His watch. His toothbrush. And a heart in a jar. Still beating. She was never buried. Garrett drives to the cemetery. Lena's grave is open. Coffin empty. Dirt clean, too clean. Like something climbed out. He digs deeper. Finds the bones of someone else. Wrapped in his old hoodie. And a cassette tape. He plays it in the truck. Her voice. You said we were forever? You said I was your last? You promised. Then breathing. Then, I forgive you. But she won't. The final sign. Back home, every mirror in the house has fogged. Even the ones behind glass. Scrawled in them, over and over. She still has the key. The front door unlocks on its own. The lights go out. His phone rings. Blocked caller. He answers. Nothing. Then softly, her voice. She's coming. And she looks like me. Part 2. Don't let her in. Garrett's house begins to turn against him. Old memories are rewritten. Doors open to rooms that never existed. Someone, or something, is living in Lena's skin, and it wants to finish what they started. Would you like me to continue? You said. Continue. ChatGPT said. Let's continue. The locks don't hold. She knows every corner of him, and now she's inside. Part 2. Don't let her in. Recap. Lena, Garrett's ex-girlfriend, dead for 3 years, is texting him again. Leaving gifts. Rearranging the house. She knows things she shouldn't. Places only they shared. Phrases only they spoke. He thought it was a haunting. Now he isn't sure it's Lena at all. The woman in the hall. The first time Garrett sees her, it's through a crack in the bathroom door. Naked. Wet. Humming a song they used to play on road trips, The Golden State by Bush. He slams the door open. Nothing there. But the mirror has fogged. One word appears in lipstick. Always. The visitor. Garrett invites Father Goins, an old friend and spiritualist, to the house. The moment Goins crosses the threshold, his nose bleeds. He says the house isn't haunted. It's inhabited. She's not a ghost. She's a scar. Something walked into your grief and wore her name like a winter coat. He pours salt around the bed. It burns. They perform a banishment. But the fire alarm goes off mid-prayer. Not from smoke. From screaming. And when they check the footage from Garrett's nanny cam, it shows Garrett sitting up in bed, eyes rolled back, whispering, "Don't let her in. Don't let me in. Don't." Love letters. He finds a box on his doorstep. Inside, 327 handwritten letters. All addressed to him. All signed. "You're forever, L." Each letter describes a different version of their life together. Married in the mountains. Living in Argentina. Dying together in a cabin fire. Garrett killing her and burying her under the floorboards. Every ending is different. But in all of them, Lena always says the same final line. "You promised me. One of us would never leave." The new her. Garrett tries to escape the house. Drives 20 miles out of town. Checks into a roadside motel. That night, he hears someone breathing through the wall. He peeks into the next room. The woman staying there? Looks like Lena, but different. Subtle things. Eyes a little too dark. Smile a little too wide. She knocks on his door. Says her name is Lena, but doesn't recognize him. He pretends not to know her. She frowns. Then says, cold and quiet, "That's okay. You'll remember me when the house calls you back." Home again. The next morning, Garrett wakes up in his bed. The motel is gone. His truck's still in the driveway. There's mud on the floor. He didn't track it in. He follows the trail to the basement. It stops at the washing machine. He opens it. Inside, Lena's dress. Still soaked. Still warm. And underneath it, a phone. His phone. It lights up with a new message. "You locked the door. But I still live here." False memories. Garrett calls his sister. Tells her everything. She goes quiet. Then says, "You and Lena broke up 5 years ago, remember?" "No. That's not right." Lena moved in with him in 2020. They fought. They broke up. She went missing in 2021. Body found in 22. His sister insists. There was no missing person case. No funeral. You said she went back to Boston. She emails him a photo. It's from Thanksgiving 3 years ago. It shows him at the table, alone. The seat next to him is empty, and the plate is covered in blood. The door again. That night, the attic door is open again. This time, it's glowing behind the edges, soft, flickering lamplight. He climbs the stairs. The room beyond is filled with photos of the life they never lived. Lena holding a baby. Garrett and Lena dancing on a porch that doesn't exist. Lena wearing a wedding dress. A headstone. Garrett cold, loving husband. Faithful even in death. He hears her voice behind him. All I ever wanted was everything you said we'd be. He turns. She's there. Smiling. Skin cracked around the mouth. Eyes too large. Wearing the same dress from the grave. She steps forward and says, "Just say it, Garrett. Say you still love me, and we'll make all the other lives real." Part 3. She knows where you'll hide. Escape is a lie. Garrett left the brownstone behind. Didn't pack. Didn't turn off the lights. Just drove. No GPS. No direction. Just instinct. He stopped 2 states away in a roadside and that smelled like old fabric and new fear. Paid in cash. No ID. Fake name, David Leary. Still that night, the front desk clerk slipped a note under his door. Written in Lena's handwriting. Missed you again. Come home soon. You forgot the toothbrush. And me. Her voice in other mouths. Garrett spent the next week jumping between cheap motels. Every night, someone nearby spoke in her voice. A child outside humming the tune they slow danced to in college. A man screaming at the front desk, and Lena's laughter bubbling through it. A gas station attendant saying, "I still love you," and not knowing why. The worst came in a grocery store. He was picking up water and batteries when a woman brushed past and whispered, "I've been dreaming your dreams. I wear them better than you ever did." She smiled. Lena's smile. Then walked away. The mirror that lied. He found an old Airstream trailer in West Virginia. Paid $150 to sleep there for a few nights. The first night, the mirror fogged while he shaved. Even though the windows were open and no hot water had been used. He wiped it. His reflection didn't move. It stared at him, empty-eyed, then smiled and mouthed, "She's in here with me." He shattered the mirror. The shards hummed. Every piece showed a different version of her. Lena dying. Lena smiling. Lena on fire, whispering his name. He swept them up and buried them under rock. That night, he found the same mirror reassembled on the Airstream wall. The journal. Garrett found Lena's old journal in the back of the trailer. But she never came here. She hated trailers. And yet, the handwriting was hers. The dates were recent. Entries like, "He loved me until I said I wanted forever. Now he runs. But I'm not alone in me anymore. She whispers in my teeth. She likes your name. We are going to be you." The last page simply read, The house isn't the haunting. I am. And I remember the other yous now. What he buried. The nightmares changed. They weren't just echoes now. They were memories he didn't recognize. Himself arguing with Lena on a beach during a trip that never happened. Lena coughing up blood in a cabin he'd never been to. A version of himself watching her drown, whispering, "It's the only way to keep you." When he woke, he found sand in his shoes. His lungs ached like they'd been breathing salt air. The airstream was 600 miles from the ocean. The red house. He tried to track her. Tried to find the origin of what she'd become. Old occult contacts said the name Lena wasn't what mattered. What mattered was what had crawled inside her. A fisher being. An obsession made manifest through grief, fixation, and ritual. They called it the Red House Wife. A spirit that wears skin, grows in new memories, lives in the gaps of love stories gone wrong. She doesn't haunt the house. She haunts the future you never got. Garrett's other life. Garrett received a package from no sender. Inside, a USB drive. A photo of him and Lena. But it wasn't a photo he remembered taking. They looked older, smiling, married, happy. He played the video on the USB. It showed their wedding. Voices, guests, laughter. Only he never married her. He paused the video, looked close. The groom didn't have a face. And when he rewound, the tape warped and played itself again. This time, Lena was staring into the camera and said, "You're running out of versions of yourself to me. One final dream." In the dream, Garrett is standing in the brownstone again. The attic door opens. Inside isn't a room. It's a hallway of mirrors. Each one shows a different Garrett. One crying in a bathtub. One bleeding. One strangling Lena. One wearing the dress. And at the end, the real Lena. Not possessed. Not cursed. Just Lena. Soft eyes. Crooked smile. She holds out a key and says, "You said you'd always come back. I forgave you. Even if you don't remember why I needed to." Then her eyes roll back. And she begins to peel her face off. Not blood, not skin. Just paper. Pages of the journal. Each one marked. You. Garrett wakes. And finds the trailer gone. He's in the brownstone. Back where it started. The front door is locked. The windows are bricked over. The attic door is open. He can hear footsteps overhead. And someone humming the Golden State. Part 4. She remembers you wrong. The stairwell that wasn't there. Garrett stands at the foot of the attic stairs, shotgun slung across his shoulder, every muscle pulled tight. The staircase goes up further than it should. More steps than the house has space for. Each one creaks like it's breathing. He climbs anyway. At the top, a hallway he's never seen. 6 doors. No windows. No light except a lamp at the far end that flickers like it's underwater. The walls, they whisper. Not with voices. With memories. He hears Lena laughing in the kitchen. Lena crying at the hospital. Lena begging. Then something darker. His own voice. "You don't get to keep loving me if I don't exist." Room 1, the first lie. The door is already open. Inside, his college apartment, exactly as it was. Lena is sitting on the bed, cross-legged, reading the bell jar. He walks in. She looks up and smiles. "You said you never lied to me." He freezes, because he knows which lie she means. The other girl. The one-night mistake he buried under guilt and silence. This Lena doesn't scream, doesn't cry. She just melts, skin turning to wax, pouring down the bedsheets. And what's left behind is a mouth. One word. Promise. He leaves. The door seals behind him. Room 2, the proposal. This one is different. It's not a memory. It's an invention. Garrett sees himself on one knee, holding a ring. Lena is crying, happy, saying yes. But she never said yes, because he never asked. He watches the scene unfold, perfect, surreal. Then it glitches. Lena's eyes bleed. Her smile stretches past the limits of skin. She turns to look directly at him. "You could have had this, but you were too scared to let me inside." The lights burst. He's thrown back into the hallway. Room 3, the real goodbye. This one hurts the most. The real last time. The actual breakup. She's at the door. Bags packed. Her face blank. He remembers screaming, saying awful things. He told her to go. Told her she was suffocating him. Now he watches as that version of himself rages. And Lena doesn't yell back. She just says, "I wish I could take you with me. But you don't love me when I'm real." He watches himself slam the door. The silence after hits harder than the yelling ever did. Room 4, the red wedding. Not a real memory. Not even close. But someone wants it to be. It's a wedding. Their wedding. Only everyone's wearing masks. Goat horns. Paper faces. Black eyes. The preacher is headless. And Lena? She walks down the aisle in a dress of pale, stretched skin. When she reaches him, she says, "You'll never leave me again." She kisses him. Her mouth is full of teeth. Too many teeth. Room 5, the buried thing. It's a graveyard. Just one grave. No headstone. He walks to it. Sees his own hand reaching for the dirt. In the distance, Lena whispers, "You buried the part of me that forgave you. Now all that's left is what wants you back." Suddenly he's in the ground. Buried. Choking on dirt and names and dates he didn't live. He claws his way out. Wakes on the attic floor, coughing blood. He's not in the hallway anymore. He's in the final room. Room 6, the real Lena. She's sitting in a rocking chair. Not smiling. Not angry. Just tired. Lena. The real one. He knows it's her. Not the thing wearing her memories. She looks at him like she hasn't slept in years. And says, "I didn't want this. I didn't ask for her. But grief opens doors, Garrett. And something came through mine." She holds out a photo. Their first trip. A cabin. Fog in the pines. They were happy. "I let her in because I missed you. She stayed because you missed me." She looks over his shoulder. Her eyes go wide. She's coming. The last version. The one that wants to keep you. Forever. He turns. The hallway is gone. Now it's the bedroom. His bedroom. Lights dim. And on the bed, her. The wrong Lena. Beautiful. Wearing the same dress she died in. She pats the sheets beside her. No more running, baby. I built this version of us just for you. The choice. Garrett stands frozen. He looks down. The key is in his hand. The one from the first letter. He looks at her. Then at the door behind him. Lena, the real one, is already fading. If you stay, she says, she'll make you perfect. But you won't be you anymore. He walks to the bed. Sits. The false Lena leans into him, kissing his neck. He whispers in her ear. I remember what I did. I remember who I am. Then drives the key into her chest. She screams. Not blood, not flesh. Shattered memories spill out. Dates. Voices. Wedding rings. Laughter. They all go silent. The fall. The house collapses. Not with fire, but with forgetting. One by one, the rooms dissolve. The walls forget how to stand. The attic unbuilds itself, and Garrett falls. Through versions of himself. Through lives he never lived. Through every promise he ever broke. Until there's nothing but light. Then, lamplight. Flickering, and silence. Part 5. Some doors don't lock. Exit wound. Garrett wakes in a motel room. Clean sheets. Sunlight bleeding through threadbare curtains. No sound but the distant hum of trucks on the highway. No ghosts. No voices. No Lena. His hands are his. His face reflects right. For the first time in weeks, maybe years, he feels whole. But in the back of his throat, something itches. Something wants to speak. How the world changes. Garrett keeps his head down. Moves to the coast. Buys a quiet little place with no attic and no mirrors. But he hears it. In conversations. In background noise. On radios with bad signals. Lena. The name doesn't mean anything to anyone else. Just a nice name. But the more people say it, the more the world begins to shape around it. Missing persons reports. Room sealed shut. Letters found in handwriting that matches his. She's still there. Garrett sees a therapist. Doesn't talk about Lena. Doesn't mention the brownstone. The mask. The house full of versions. But she finds a note slipped into her desk one day, unsigned. He said he forgot her. But she remembers better than most. She doesn't mention it to Garrett. She just stops returning his calls. And moves out of town. 3 weeks later, her dog is found on Garrett's porch. Mouth sewn shut. Inside it, a wedding ring. The interview. A podcast about paranormal events reaches out to Garrett under a fake name. He agrees to talk. Says he's ready to finally let go. During the recording, the host asks, "If you could go back, would you say yes? Would you let her in?" Garrett says no. But the recording says yes. When they play it back, his voice is calm, steady. "I never stopped loving her. We're still together. You'll see her too." The host never airs the episode. Goes missing a week later. The last voicemail she sent. A soft humming. The Golden State. The house that grows. Garrett walks by a neighborhood he's never visited before. Sees his brownstone. Not one like it. His. Same address. Same door. Same cracks in the brick where he punched it once after a fight. But this one's in a different city. He approaches. The mailbox has one letter inside. No stamp. No return. Just his name. Inside. She's proud of how far you ran. But she built new doors. And they all open inward. The new her. One night, Garrett dreams of Lena again. Not fractured. Not vengeful. Just tired. She's in the rocking chair, in the attic that no longer exists. Her voice is soft. You made the right choice. But you didn't close all the doors. I needed someone to carry me. So now I walk through others. He wakes. There's someone standing at the edge of the bed. Not Lena. A woman with no face. Just a voice. His voice. She whispers. You loved her once. That's all I needed. The legacy. People around Garrett begin to forget him. Cashiers forget he paid. Cops forget his name. Neighbors swear no one lives in the house. But he sees his own eyes in strangers now. In a girl sitting alone on a swing set. In a man staring too long at his reflection in a train window. They all blink and see. They all hum when it rains. The final note. Garrett leaves a letter in a box. Addresses it to whoever finds it. I was in love once. Her name was Lena. I think she's still in love with me. Or what she turned into. If you find a door you don't remember building, and someone calls your name from the other side, don't open it. Some doors don't lock, and some love stories are hungry. The ending, that is it. They find the letter sealed in wax, lined with petals from a flower that doesn't grow in this country. The signature is in Garrett. It just says, Us. And on the back, faintly pressed into the paper, a lip print. Still warm.